And welcome to today's section of our course. Let's excel together. I'm really happy that you've made it thus far, and I hope you're really getting value for the time you've put in to getting an understanding of what Microsoft Excel application is. We've covered quite a bit, and today in this session we're going to be looking at analysis in the Microsoft Excel application. Analysis. Now, thinking of the word analysis, what does it mean? I just did the Google search as at time of this recording, and the best search result says that analysis is kind of like a detailed examination of the elements of something. This is called from Merriam-Webster, I believe. And then the first line on Wikipedia, says it's a process of breaking a complex topic into smaller parts in order to gain a better understanding of it. Now, not to get lost in verbose of words, analysis. There's something that is big, quite broad. For instance, data sets that we've been working with up until this point, and we'll have all of these numbers, all of these entries. I'm just going to wipe this off so it's a bit clean, okay? And we have all of this, but then it's a bit too much to understand. It's a bit too much. There are entries all over the place. Like what do they mean? Where does it come in? A way if to have a better understanding of it would be to kind of summarize it. Okay, a summary. That's kind of like kind of what these things are saying. A detailed explanation of the element of something. But I like the Wikipedia one a bit better where it says the process of breaking a complex topic or a thing that seems complex, it seems a bit too much, into smaller bits in order to get a better understanding of it. Okay, so in this case, let's use these data sets that we have here. I also have one from WHO regarding COVID-19 data. The links are all in the description, so you could go there, extract data sets, and perform your own form of analysis using the prescribed tool I'm going to suggest here. Okay, and now the goal is you have these huge data sets, but you want to get a message. What's the message? Because yes, we said the Excel as a spreadsheet application is to store and organize data. So you're storing the data, here you're organizing the data. However, the data is increasing, but is there something to be gleaned from it? Let's use this, so we have the order dates, we have region, we have reps, items, units, cost, and you recall we also try to establish um, like a commission rate, for each rep. What message? As there are so many entries, we have about 43 entries. We have about 43 entries. If we keep it running, it can increase. It should increase. It should increase. 100, 200, 1,000, many more. At such instance, it's going to be really painstaking to be scrolling, you know, one line by line to understand what's going on here. Now, one of the quick tools that the Microsoft Excel application offers to help with breaking down this huge bits into smaller sections so you can understand the data that is presented before you is the pivot table. Pivot table. Okay, so you get a pivot point, so your entire data set is represented in a table. Now, we've learned that you can have your data set as a raw data set like what you're seeing, or you could actually use the table feature in Excel to transform it into a table such as this. And so we have this table design tab here. Okay, either way, the pivot table can be used. So all we need to do is to highlight the data set. Now I'm just going to maintain these original areas here, right? And I'm going to highlight every bit of it, including the headers, all the way down. And then I'm going to come to insert. Here, insert. You recall when we came to the insert tab, we used the table initially. Here we have pivot table. The Excel application even gives you a step further to say recommended pivot table. That is something I'm going to allow you to explore, but first to understand the pivot table, how it works, you creating your own pivot table. And so you can create a pivot table from this instance here. Now, if you were to have converted this to a table like we have in this sheet here, and you go to table design tab, you see that there's already an option of summarize with pivot table. It's when you click on summarize with pivot table, and when we say pivot table here, is same action. Okay, so let's see the description of pivot table. It says easily arrange and summarize complex data, right? Which is what I was saying, breaking down complex object into smaller bits in a pivot table. Okay, now I'm just going to click on it once. I'm not going to double click. We have more options, where you want to select your source from. So for the purpose of this discourse, to get yourself abreast with it, first click on this because we've already highlighted the range. Now it still gives you a confirmation with this dialog box here. Some persons may call it a wizard, but a dialog box. Essentially, the application is confirming to you, like, is this the range where your data set is? Now we're familiar with when we see dollar symbols, what they mean, right? Locking it in an absolute range, okay? And this represents the sheet name. So it could be a table or a range. So it's asking, is this a table? Is this the range where your data set is? This your huge complex data sets that you want summarized. You want to just aggregate things up. And if that's the case, then you move to the next point, where you have these two radio buttons. You say choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Is it in a new worksheet, an existing worksheet, or you have a particular location? Now, this is especially when you're using an existing worksheet. So you can just select this in. You add this to the data model. It's more advanced. I won't be covering that in this course. Okay. So I'm just going to select new worksheet so we have something fresh for this to breathe in. I click OK and I have another worksheet created for me in sheet 5. Okay. Now you would have noticed that you have two additional tabs: pivot table analyze, pivot table, and then design. In addition to that, you have something like this, where my cursor is over on your screen. If you're not getting similar view as this, that's not to bother. Let me change mine here. So you see same thing as you can see on your computer. Okay. Now, what are these here? These are showing you the fields which are representatives of the columns of your data set or your table. So these here are the columns, right? The columns, the field headers of your data set. Next to it, you have this for filters, you have this for rows, you have this for columns, you have this for values. Now let's explain this. Now, the pivot table, you're creating another kind of table that is aggregating the entries in your data set. However, you can specify where you want your values to be represented in. So let's start with the region, for instance. Now, the region, all of these were columns, right? They were columns. So the region, if I should drag, you could click or you could drag, so I'm going to let's click and drag over to this area of rows and watch what happens. So now I have the regions in rows like this. Okay. Now for values, I want to use um let me move to the next thing of columns. Now I have my regions as rows such as this. The next I want to see is the items. So let me drag my items over to columns. Now look at this. These are the different items that we have: the binder, the decks, the pen, the pencil, and next to it I want to see the various units as per these items. So I'm going to drag units over to values. Now look at this. So it sums it up by default. The pivot table tries to understand the data that you're supplying into that value area, and then it's performing the action that it feels you would want it to perform at the time. If you don't wish to perform a sum action, which is to add, you could click on the drop down here, select value field settings such as this, and take a different, excuse me, take a different action, all right, to perform a count action, average, max, mean, product. There are quite a number of them. Okay, I'm just going to keep it at sum, and I could also change the name here, right? I could also change the name here. I'm just going to leave it as sum of units at first. Okay, and I can also perform formatting actions, on this as well. I'll come to general here, saying numbers. I'm just going to select this, just to have it two decimal points, or I'm going to keep that out of the way. Now, if I, you can't see that pivot dialog anymore. That's because I've clicked out of the pivot area. If I should select anywhere in the pivot area, you can see it all in here. Now you can see something that this is different from what we had here. Okay, we had everything here, and it wasn't easy to give certain statements about these data sets as compared to where we have it here now. Yes, we just need to work a bit on our labels, but having being familiar with this data set, we know that this represents the regions. Okay, so we see that the central region, we can now boldly say that for the central region, a total of 1,199 units were sold. Of these, 424 were binders, 7 decks items, 27 pen, 233 pen sets, 498 pencils. Okay, and this now you have this in what, 3 lines, one row giving you this information, extracting this information from how many rows do we have here? We have 43 records here. 43 records we have here. And excuse me, in 3 lines, we're seeing summaries of all those 43 records, and it's giving us like we have a better understanding, like we've broken down that huge data set to something that we can easily understand, easily communicate, to a partner, a colleague, a client, a customer. Now you can say, oh, you can reference, say from a particular period. Looking at this here, the central region seems to be the more viable region at this time because it sold a total of 1,199 units. Okay, and looking at all of this here, you can say, oh, from this central region, the most profitable item here is a pencil. The least profitable item is a dex. I will say, oh, what's the next most profitable region? We have East for 688. Now, these are things that the pivot table helps you achieve. It's a huge one. Okay, it's a huge one, and it's very useful. I would really want you to pay close attention. It's something that will build on. So this is the first base of the pivot table in its simplest form. This is a pivot table. You could also, just as we're nesting functions, you could nest items, like these columns that we have here. You could next them in your pivot table row, in your pivot table column, in your values even. You can perform several dynamic functions, to it. Now, just to give a test of that, okay? Now let's include the rep in the region bits here. And just include the rep in the region bits. So the rep is underneath it here. If I'm clicking down here, I can see the rep here. Now you see that for each region, we have reps. So now it makes us even see why the central region seems to be the most productive. Okay, and why is that? Because it has more reps in it. And the western region, which seems to have the least number of units sold, is as a result of just two reps sent there or designated there or operating in that space. Okay, so now we are saying that we're now expounding on this minor detail that we had before to get more clarity. It's like we're delving in. Some persons may say the granularity of the data, We're delving in and we're seeing more things. We're gleaning insights, from this. Now I'm just going to take this off, I'm going to uncheck it, if I were to even move this rep, to the items. Now this is not as nice as it was prior to this time. So I'm just going to take it off and let me use total. Remember what we did from some calculations, total, right? So let's add the total to the units sold here and add total here. Now, what's the value for total? It's also sum as well. Sum as well. So now it's getting a bit clumsy. So it's something that you also want to play around with how you want it to appear. If I want to check it, leaving it at this level, it seems neat enough. If I was to just say, oh, let me take off the region and let's work with just the reps. Let's see what the reps are doing. Okay. And I'm seeing, we can see here now, the reps. You can see that the reps seem to focus a bit more on the binder items, right? The binder items have more sales, more units sold when compared to other items. All right, next to it is the pencil. So different insights you can glean, from using the pivot table, performing analysis using the pivot table. Massive, massive, massive insights, Now there's another feature we've not looked at here, and you're looking at it and you're wondering why is it blank? We have filters. Excuse me. You could drag your values, your column items to the filters. So what does filters do? Think about it when you have like honey or water and you're trying to purify it, so you set something like a net or in some cases a filter so you can narrow down what is going to proceed to what you may classify as your final output, like that's like a filter, and you see the icon, to indicate that, really shows something of like a funnel. Okay. So if we're to drag an item, to the filter, now I want you to pay close attention to our pivot table as well. You see that we now have something above here, and by default, all of it is selected. Now you can say select multiple items or to just select one by one. So if I select one by one, when I select central and I click OK, see how the values have changed. Okay. Now to make this more dynamic, I'm just going to use select multiple items here. And now I can select multiple items if I so wish. I just take off just for East. I see that, oh, for East we have 3 representatives in the Eastern region, and then I do same for the West. Now we see just 2 representatives. So think of this, like I shared in earlier discourse of how you can apply this to your current activities, what you're currently doing. Okay. And the beautiful thing about pivoting, you can have multiple pivot tables. You can create multiple pivot tables, with your data set directly, or you can copy it, paste it, and then use particular fields that you want to use to glean insights from your data set. Now, I would like to just add another thing, another thing. Let me take off the filters here. I like to add another thing, and let's take the items from the column to rows. Okay, the item to rows, and let's play around. Let's play around with something here. Now you're going to see this in another data set I will introduce to you. But in pivot table, now you can perform certain actions in pivot table. You could say, I have these huge data sets, and let's assume we have a big, a really big line of operation. So you have, say, 30 items running, with multiple sales reps, across the universe, running and performing different sales and promotional activities for you. But you want to see, oh, top 3 performers, top 5 performers, top 10 performers. We don't have so much here. We just have how many? 5 of them. Now, with the pivot table, you can also do this. You can right click on the item there and say sort, more sort options. Okay, smallest to largest, largest to smallest. So it gives you like a uniform view of saying it this way. Okay, you could perform more actions to say, excuse me, group. Okay, filter. Now the filter is where I want to focus on a bit. Now for filter, I'm going to say top 10. Now saying top 10, like in this case, we don't have even that much. I'm just going to say top 3 based on the items, so top 3 items based on the sum of the units and what I feel keyed in here. So I'm saying top, I could say bottom, I could let it show me the bottom and I say, so now we're looking at it, we already know that we're expecting binder, pencil, and pen set. If we get something else, we'll know it's wrong, and that's what we got. Okay, so at this point, it's like I'm assuming you're already imagining how you can apply this, to your peculiar reality, how you can break down this huge, voluminous data set that is presented to you, at your disposal into smaller bits, that helps to give you insights to what's going on, so you can give reports, help you with your reports, help you with meetings, and the likes. Okay. Now, the next thing in terms of analysis is has to do with statistical functions, and I thought about covering it. Please refer to our earlier models on statistical functions. But however, statistical functions are not used by everyone. Okay, not everyone takes particular interest in saying, oh, what's the variance of this? What's the standard deviation of this from the central point? All right, all those measures of central tendency and the likes. So that's why we're going to just keep those to our statistical function. So do well to pay more attention to the statistical function material if you want to get in-depth understanding of statistical function. The pivot table from my wealth of experience is sufficient for your analysis need, and I hope you will play more on this to understand it better. One very good way of getting your hands busy is to go to the WHO data repository, get data sets and just try to use them to perform as much analysis, glean insight as you can get. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next module where we're talking about visualization, presentation. Thanks and well done. Bye for now.